Hello and welcome back to all my subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber, what's wrong with you? Right. Today I wanted to show you a program that I wrote in Rust, probably 2 or maybe 3 years ago now, which was a sort of like the game that I discussed in one of my other videos about Trade Wars 2000. I started doing this game mostly just to learn how to do Rust and to work with it. And I figured this was a good example because it, this game was all effectively text based, and but it was quite complicated, quite complex, needed a lot of moving parts, and so I thought it would be a good um, thing to move up to. I originally started doing Rust. I was doing things like AC Doocy games or Mastermind or little simple games like that. But this was a much more complicated game, sort of based on the Trade Wars 2000 type game. Now let me just quickly shift the screen, and I hope that you can see this. I'm sorry if it's pixelated or small. It's very difficult to change the font, but in theory, you'll be able to see it. So let me just switch over. Now, what I've got here is this sort of Trade Wars clone is what I started with. The thing you need is a Big Bang, which means you need to build the universe. Now, in this particular one, I'm building a universe of 1,000 sectors, and it generates random port names. It generates random nebulas. Well, not random, but it randomly assigns the number of the names of the nebula. Um, and so basically, it creates warp tunnels, number of sectors, ports, reciprocal jumps. It works out dead ends. It works out uh, random planets, the amount of credits in each port, the amount of products in a port, etc., etc. And then it has a thing called Fed space, which is Federation space, which if anybody's played Trade Wars, you'll know. Um, and then it sets up Fed space. It also sets up Ferengi space later, and basically it just builds up the number of sections, and it just creates the whole thing, and it does the warps. So the important thing here is it not only connects all of the array warps together, but it also creates dead ends, and then it works out tunnels, like how long um, a tunnel is, so you can warp from sector 1 to 1 to 25, and then 26, 27, 28, 29, and then you have to come back because that's a tunnel. It's effectively a hole. Otherwise there might be a jump somewhere to sector 736. Anyway, so it works out and creates all the warp sets and sectors and does all of this good stuff, and then assigns planet types. Anyway, it and then it builds up citadels on the planets if they're needed. It works out all of this stuff, and it generates a universe for the player to play in. So, and then it obviously serializes everything out to a file to be read later. Now, I didn't implement the whole game. What I started to do was I started to do a server, because the intention was to do the Big Bang to create the universe, then have a client, and then have a server. I decided to skip the client initially and just start with the server uh, as a sort of a limited or a more limited um, thing. So if we close that. Now here I just listen on a TCP/IP port, and then I output the relevant stuff, um, and it should let me buy um, products and do all sort of other stuff, and it has the ASCII color scheme here, so that when it outputs, it'll output the ASCII color scheme. Now I've got this running. It falls over in a big smoking heap, so don't get your hopes up. But basically, it's running the server in the background there, and I can telnet into this, and it does correctly output, you know, the right ASCII color codes and all that stuff. Now it also fails spectacularly to work, but it does do some prompts, and yeah, it falls over in a big smoking heap down here at the bottom, which I haven't fixed. But as I say, this was code from 2-3 years ago, so I'm sure the problem here is most likely something to do with Rust has changed, or it's not, well, can't find a file or whatever, but you know, I could fix it. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing this source code. I could put this on GitHub. I haven't yet. It's in, you know, in a source code repository, but it's not on GitHub. So if anybody was interested in that, I could post it. Let me know in the comments if you're interested. Let me know if you've done similar sort of more complicated things to try and learn a language like Rust or Python or whatever. You know, I did a whole series on writing a 8-bit computer and an emulator and a assembly for it, just to get better at Python. So I think for me, complex projects work better than non-complex projects, if you see what I mean. So let me know in the comments what you think. Please like and subscribe. Check out my other videos and check out my books if you're interested. I'm an author and I write books, so check that out. xgipublishing.com. Thanks a lot. See you soon.